What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Live Free Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Maxwell. Today's guest is Mr. MikeGiant. He joins us for an unprecedented fourth episode on the Live Free Podcast. He joins us via Skype from his studio in downtown Los Angeles. We talked honesty, tattooing again, efficiency, Lineage, LA, court systems, checks and balances, 70s strength, Oprah For President, Chuck Norris Movies, Thanksgiving, Symbolisms, and Sons of Gods. So, usually right here I go and do plugs. Let's do something different this time. Alright, so we're coming up on the holidays and it's supposed to be about the idea of giving. So let's do like a team building exercise. So, alright, everybody who listens to this episode, including myself, because I'm listening to it sort of coming out of my face. Alright, let's choose within this, over this next week, to go out of our way to do something nice for somebody who maybe we wouldn't necessarily do something nice for. Since we're already kind of in the spirit, like people go and buy gifts for people that they don't just normally go. Imagine if everybody just bought gifts for each other in like random parts of the year. How interesting that would be. So instead of me plugging a bunch of nonsense and telling you who to follow and where to leave donations and shit, let's do this. Find somebody as soon as you can after listening to this episode. Find somebody and do something nice for them. And if it's a stranger, like, it's even better. But don't be creepy. Right? Sometimes that shit looks creepy, right? Like, and how weird is that? If you do something nice for somebody, the first sort of creepy thought is like, what are they trying to get out of me? But instead of doing something that's for yourself or in a selfish way, just do something out of the blue for somebody who wouldn't expect it. I'm sorry, hold on. So yeah, I think that'll be a pleasant surprise for people. Go ahead and try that out. And write in and let me know how it goes. If your experience was interesting and something extraordinary happened, send me an email, info@MikeMaxwellArt, and I'll read the email. If some good ones come in, I'll read the emails on a future episode. So, with all that said, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. MikeGiant.
That breath of fresh air.
How's that start? What's up, Lex? We're back. It's another episode of the Live Free Podcast.
What's up, man?
Nothing. We're rolling right along. Got another episode in the barrel.
In the
What's
banks.
in the can? What's the movie
in
term?
In the vault.
There's like a movie term, like once you're done with your film and it's in the can. It's in the can, right? It's in the can.
I never heard that. I know that cans are like monitors in the.
No. Because like old films, they'd put them in those canisters.
Oh,
right?
yeah, okay.
Like it all
I
used
see
to
that. Yeah, okay.
It's in the can.
I
Cut.
get that.
We're done. So, we got another episode lined up here. We're going to talk to MikeGiant here in a little bit.
Nice.
An unprecedented fourth episode on the Live Free Podcast. Besides you and Carl.
Yeah, I know.
And
same with you on my show also. It's been the fourth.
Yeah, our double shows. Besides that, no other guests have been on this many times.
I think everyone looks forward to this guy being on the show a lot.
Yeah,
too.
he's one of my oldest friends and in the art game and like one of my earliest influences.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's so funny. I just did a painting for an old friend from high school who reconnected with me through Facebook. Turns out he does jiu-jitsu too, which is really
nice.
cool. But he was the kid, and I've had a lot of outside influence, like learning about graffiti and like coming up in the art game or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But there was one very specific moment in time. I had this English class that, I can't remember the teacher's name. I've always been bad at remembering the teacher's names. It was like Mr. Wilson or some shit. Mean-ass fucking ginger-bearded, like, mountain man type.
Nice.
But probably super Republican and just grumpy as shit. I don't know why English teachers are always like that. There must be like failed writers or like writers that didn't.
That's what it is. They aspired to be college professors but didn't have the cut to it, and so that's the whole thing.
So the class was always terrible. It was hard to deal with, and it was one of the like more advanced English classes too. And so like they expected a lot more out of you, and I decided to give much less. But anyway, so this kid would, my buddy Scott, would bring in graffiti magazines that I had never seen before. So I'd ride the trolley lines and see graffiti from like El Cajon to downtown, like catching that stuff. But it'd be so fast, you're riding on the trolley. You wouldn't really get that good a glimpse.
Yeah.
So anyway, he would bring in these magazines that had graffiti from San Francisco, from New York, from the UK, and all different places like France and all around Europe.
Yeah.
And I was like, what the fuck is this? And it just tripped me out. Like, I never made the connection between, like, because I grew up around, like, I hung out, like, almost every weekend in, like, Skyline, Choice Views, I think is what it's called. Fuck.
Like National City
Lameda
area?
Village, like, South Lemon Grove.
Oh, okay.
And so I was familiar with all like the Cholo graffiti, like the gang shit, which was more territorial like shit than it was about the difference.
It wasn't pretty or anything like that.
Well, it is in my eyes. It was like I already had an appreciation for it. But, it's not the same thing. There's two different types of graffiti.
Yeah.
Well, more than two different types, but there's two different things.
Those two that you were able to distinguish.
Yeah, and Mike's stuff was in some of those magazines long ago. And I remember seeing it and it standing out, Yeah. And I talk about this a lot, but so it's cool that I could see the progression from like originally seeing his stuff, and I didn't know him at the time, or like it took a long time before I made the connection to realize that that was that stuff that I was looking at then.
Yeah.
5 years later or whatever.
That's pretty cool.
And he's been tattooing me for a long time, so we'll get into all of that. Let's just give Mike a call, yeah?
Yep.
Will you hit that middle? Mr. MikeGiant.
Hey, what's up, man?
What's up,
you
brother?
got like a studio set up now. I can see it.
Yeah, we're fucking rocking shit now. We got producer Lex is over here on the right.
Well, I'll move over.
Are you gonna turn your video on? Are you gonna rock?
Where do I do that?
There should be like a camera icon, like a video
I see.
icon.
Yeah.
Then we can check out your spot too. Yeah, what's up, buddy?
There you are.
We've been learning the technique as we go.
Yeah.
We both got headphones and mics now.
I know. It's. I was just telling my friends who I had asked to be on the show, like around like the first 10 episodes, to come on now. Like they didn't end up doing it. I have a couple who they're both photographers, and I haven't had very many photographers on the show. So like I've been wanting to get different angles on things of the same creative processes. Right. And I was like, man, the show has evolved so much, especially having Lex on board. Like the last 20 episodes, we got our shit together now.
Yeah, good.
So it's good to see you again twice in a very short period of time.
Yeah,
I was
little breaks here and there for sure.
I was just lucky enough to come up and get my sleeve worked on a little bit. We had some background stuff to do on my two-headed snake action.
Yep.
And so I got to come up and get tattooed in LA. So,
yeah.
Hey, first off, real quick, was there anything that we talked about this week that you don't want to talk about on the show?
Oh, shit. I don't know.
Okay. If there is...
I can't think of anything.
Okay, good. I didn't know if you talked about anything in confidence, if I bring anything up.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, good. If there is, just let me know.
Whatever. Yeah,
Not that
I feel like I'm incriminating myself or something.
I know. Well, I just thought about it. I meant to ask you that, but
that's fine, man.
I usually don't have to do that thing because I'm usually like interviewing people, or like it's like we're gonna have more of just a conversation because we've already done the interview thing plenty of times.
Sure, and even in that context, since we knew each other beforehand, it wasn't like a cold interview.
Yeah, right, exactly.
We knew what things we had in common to kind of get a conversation rolling.
But then sometimes I got to be careful, right? Like, so if we have a conversation in confidence, I think it's important for me to not share information.
Yeah. Well, but at the same time, I think personally a good interview gets to the core of who people are more so than just what they're showing to the public.
Sure, I agree.
I think that because we have those personal conversations, you already have a better angle.
Yeah.
Which makes it more interesting to me anyway.
And to be honest, the sort of precipice for this podcast came out of can you hear the double, like it feels like I'm hearing myself. You hear that? You don't hear it?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay. Is that when we were making that film, I just told somebody this. I think I told Tim McCormick on the last episode that like when I guess just your honesty in showing the public that you smoke cannabis gave me some weird confidence. You don't hear that? I think it's on your end. Is your headphones?
Yeah. Is that better?
Yeah, that might be. Yeah, I think that's better.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Uh-huh. Technical stuff.
Yeah. The headphones that you're rocking, for the people that can't see, look fucking awesome. Are they vintage old ones or are they new?
No. They're new.
They look rad.
Somebody came. God, I wish I could remember his name. It's like that. He came to photograph me at my house, I believe. And on the way out, he was like, "Hey, you want some headphones?" And we went to his car, and he had a trunk full of headphones, skull candy. I don't know how. I don't think it was on some illegal shit. I think he used to work for them or something, know?
Yeah.
But he was like, pick one. And I was like, oh, well, which ones sound the best? And he's like, oh, these ones. And I was like, well, fucking, I'll take those. So, yeah, I just randomly came up on them. But since I've been working here at the Rebel 8 warehouse, I have to wear headphones when I'm drawing because usually I have a stereo on and it's blasting. But in this environment, like that would not work out so good.
Right. So I was saying that, your willingness to show the public your cannabis use somehow, and when we were filming the documentary, I think that's when it sort of came to light, the level of honesty that I was seeing from you. And at the same time, like some of these comedians like Joe Rogan and Joey Diaz, who are doing podcasts, who are also being very open about their real lives in comparison to what like our stereotypical person in the limelight or like somebody who's famous or somebody who's looked up to, they have to act some like PG-13, way to the public, where I started seeing people who I admired and looked up to acting in a very open and honest way that made me feel less fear or like less likely to be judged or made fun of or whatever, and allowed me to do this podcast and be able to like open up and tell stories about myself or like my weaknesses or my strengths or all those things. So it's good to have you on for an unprecedented 4th episode.
Cool.
Yeah. So luckily I was able to get tattooed, like I said.
Yeah.
You recently just jumped back into doing a few tattoos here and there, and I know that the last time we had spoke, there seemed to be some finality for you at that point. Like you were done tattooing.
Yeah.
I'm curious what led you back to it. So here's this thing. Like yesterday, we had a long conversation with somebody who wasn't painting for a long time and just got back into painting, and talking about sort of attachments to them, like willingness to sort of set something aside and be patient without it, has been something that I find admirable, and maybe something that I see that I'm unable to do. Like I couldn't set down painting for a long time, not because like I'm not like because I'm supposed to do it, because sometimes of an attachment to it, like in that like it's supposed to be done, but it's not like supposed to be done because I love it, even though I do. But do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I mean, for me, a lot of the reasons that I started tattooing again were financial, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I was paying 2 leases, one in San Francisco and one down here in LA for most of this last year. And that was kind of crippling.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I just needed some extra money. And it helped in that way a lot. you know? And also, I had never tried rotary tattoo machines before, and I was hopeful about, you know, how they operated, and I wanted to try it. So I have given it a try, but I'm still so much faster with a regular electric machine that I've kind of just gone back to that.
Yeah. Was it was the challenge was it about the challenge or trying a brand new tool?
Frankly, I thought using a rotary machine would be easier and it would help me work faster. You know, I mean, I spend hours and hours every day working with Sharpies on paper, just moving lines and kind of working in a similar way to tattooing. So I'm pretty quick with it now. And I constantly find tattooing terribly frustrating because it's so slow.
Right.
And I really want to, I feel like I could go 10 times as fast as what the technology is allowing me to do.
Yeah, I
hear
what
I
saying.
mean? And that skin too, you know, whatever.
But, I think it's interesting that you bring that up because I wrote down that there's an efficiency. That's something that I want to talk about your tattooing, that even though it's a slow process, I feel like you're incredibly efficient in the technical aspects of it. So, like, for instance, I'm healing right now. Like, today I'm peeling, and there's no hard spots. You know what I mean? So what that tells me is that you're efficient in applying the ink to the skin without the damage of having to go back over something a bunch of times. And, you know, it depends on the area and how a person heals, of course. But I've always noticed with the amount of tattoos that I have, an efficiency of line, you know, an efficiency of shading, of filling in color. So it's interesting to hear from your point of view that even for you, it's still too slow of a process on some level.
Yeah, I mean, I just wish it was faster. That's all. I'm just bitchy.
Yeah, I wonder.
I mean, whatever. It is what it is. It's the most difficult thing I know how to do, flat out.
Yeah.
And it's humbling, and it hurts the shit out of my hands and my back and my shoulders and my neck every time I do it. And that's the main reason I don't do it more. You know, it's not because I don't love tattooing. It's just it kicks my ass. You know, straight up.
And drawing doesn't do the same thing to you? Are you able to set yourself up in such a way that, like...
No, drawing's a totally different thing. The thing people forget about with the tattooing is the stretching arm. You know, the left hand. You know, in my right hand, I have to use the utmost finesse and the lightest touch possible. With my left, I need to do the total opposite. I need to hold the person steady. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Almost to the point where I'll bruise people because I'm holding them still. Because if I need to pull a perfectly straight line, I need to make sure that motherfucker ain't moving.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So half of the battle, if not 60% of the battle in tattooing, is stretching the skin properly. And that's another thing to do with speed. If I can't stretch the skin tight enough, I can't get it in fast enough. And I'm getting older. And the force it requires to, say, pull someone's love handles over, you know, right?
Yeah.
That, like, physically it's tough for me now to work on those areas because it's just so physically strenuous. And it's such a dynamic twist of the body to be so taut on one side for so long, and there's the constant twisting in the chair and dipping in the ink, and you have to go back and forth, and you have this... It's really, really, really difficult. I think people that watch TV think it's easy as pie, but I swear to God, it's the hardest fucking thing I know how to do. And I know how to do some serious art mediums, you know, but nothing compares to working in flesh, living, breathing flesh.
That's something that nobody ever thinks about. And even I used to call you Iron Grip because you would grip with the one hand that wasn't tattooing so fucking hard that you would feel it. And you never really think about that, how you have to sort of have that both, that yin and yang of a smooth finish on one side, like a non-tense, and then half of your body is in a state of tension.
Exactly. Yeah. For hours on end.
Non-stop, yeah. I feel like that with a paintbrush, but it's obviously not on the same scale in that you have to kind of like neck and shoulder issues, like locking your like it's weird. You kind of have to lock your body up in that, only allowing like one part of your body to flow. And
Sure. I mean, it would be like if you had to hold your canvas in front of you the whole damn time.
Yeah, and stretch it while
which could work, because then you could turn the canvas really quickly and just really get. It depends on how you were painting, right?
Have you seen that guy who does this?
It makes sense just to stick it up on an easel and keep it still, and then you don't have to touch it, hands off.
Yeah.
And if I could tattoo like that, that might be kind of nice. And I understand that there are some Japanese methods where they do have someone else, even Samoan, Polynesian tattooing.
Yeah.
They'll have groups of people stretch the skin so the tattooer doesn't have to deal with that part. He just has to tap it in or poke it in or whatever.
And
those guys, makes sense to me.
Whenever you see those images too, it's usually like the elder tattoo artist, right? Like it's not always there. It always seems like an apprentice, like a couple young dudes.
Been keeping the history too.
Yeah,
a lot of cases those are family lineage is the way that the patterns are laid out on people. So it would take an elder to be able to say, well, you're the descendant of this person, this person, this person, this person, and this person. All of these are incorporated into your piece. You wouldn't know that. I would. Right. And I'm bestowing that upon you. Now you are part of us, part of a lineage, part of a tribe.
Right.
Do or die. That's fresh.
And do you think those things are still prevailing in those cultures? I feel like in Polynesian cultures you see it a lot. I don't know so much if it's still popularized in Japanese culture. We still seeing the hand pokes?
I frankly, yeah. There's still very much a tradition alive of traditional tattooing all over the world in different places using lots of different methods. The other thing is I see, let's say, American Polynesian, American Hawaiian kids getting really traditional tattoos done with electric machines, but still on their faces and their arms, on their thighs, that kind of stuff. I am all for, reestablishing that connection to our ancient past, for sure.
I train with a bunch of Hawaiian kids that are really, like, my homeboy just got both of his chest piece done.
Right, that's exactly what I'm talking about. I think that's absolutely fantastic. And it's interesting, too, to see how it's morphed into a modern style. Sometimes it's not exactly traditional, because the client doesn't particularly care that it's absolutely traditional. I just want the look. Right. And then it becomes this very modern new thing, which is exactly what it's about to me, reestablishing those traditions in the modern way.
Which is funny. They all do the designs on their Muay Thai shin guards too, which kind of like transfers like some type of warrior ethic, warrior style into your modern day Muay Thai protective gear.
Sure.
It looks cool.
It can be like incantation too, where you're casting a spell. You're visually writing out a spell on yourself, and it's meant to intimidate your opponent. I mean, it's as simple as makeup and war paint, that kind of shit.
Yeah, I just did a series of war paint paintings just recently, but it was all Civil War figures with traditional war paint across their face, like mixed with line and painting.
Cool.
It's really popular, but it seems as though it's a very it's a been used.
Sure.
Yeah. Like everything else, right?
For sure. I think, now that we have access to the world's history of art and design and everything, we kind of see that all just kind of gets...
Which is kind of interesting to think about now, right? Like, because we were just talking about, like, traditional Polynesian design or whatever, and the beauty in that it passes on is basically a lot of the same type of things, similar images that pass through a culture. But then we look at, like, modern art, and if we place it in the same type of context, when there's similarities amongst things, it almost becomes vilified. And this is something, you've been posting a lot of drawings of like old logos that you like, and you've done like old skate logos, like re-renditions of old things that have been from your past. And do you ever catch flack for that stuff? Or, like even law wise, like if like a company like had some sort of copyright issue and was like, I want to sue you for something. We don't look at it in the same context, right? Like,
yeah. No, I mean, I'm certainly an outsider in that way. I could really give a fuck. I mean, I would love to get a letter in the mail from some corporation that they even notice something that I'm doing. frankly, that'd be great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not. Yeah, and and I don't really get flack for any of it. I think it's more people are curious about what my intentions are.
Yeah.
Which is fantastic, because intention is really, it's a powerful theme in Buddhism for sure.
Right.
But just, that they're curious, like, why are you doing this, Mike? And I did a Tumblr post where I put up an image of a collage of corporate logos. And I tried to explain that, to me, those are the modern hieroglyphics. In 500 years, people are going to be looking at all those symbols blankly without any understanding of the meaning at all. They're going to be real simple, just like Egyptian hieroglyphics. That's why I even made the connection to the word hieroglyphics. When I look at Egyptian hieroglyphics, I try to imbue the meaning from them by what they look like and in context of the other symbols around it, and that's how meaning and language was built to begin with.
Right.
Certain symbols mean certain things or certain sounds in the sense of language. So to me, I'm just trying to almost codify that modern logo type as a hieroglyphic for the future.
Yeah, that's
and in some ways, it's pretty obvious, I mean, and it's kind of preposterous at the same time.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because of just the number of hieroglyphic images, let's see, that there's out there because of the commercial space. Whereas in ancient Egypt, they just didn't have supermarkets per se like we do. You know what I mean? Where there's this constant need for rebranding. And, so there's just, oh man, to me, it's wonderful. And to mix modern icons like the logo from the MGM Grand next to an ancient Egyptian hieroglyph next to a Celtic, you know what I mean? Like it all, and then next to an old Paulo Peralta skateboard graphic.
Well, the context shifts on some level. Like even if you're abstracting things, if you don't have like let's say the MGM lion without the MGM below, it disassociates from corporation and becomes some type of icon that's intermixed with all these other ones. That's
kind of my point. Even to the and I've even done that in my own body. I have lots of logos on myself, mostly band logos like Public Enemy, and I have the original Lowrider logo from Lowrider magazine.
Yep.
I've got the Metalheads Records logo on me. I have all kinds of shit like that. It's just like the important things. Teachers.
We almost tattooed the Tupac cross on me.
Oh, really?
At one point.
Yeah, that's a classic.
Yeah, it didn't happen, but we almost did it. I think it was the anniversary of his death, or it was his birthday or some shit.
When was this? What was the time that you did?
Oh, I guess like 3 years ago, 4 years ago.
Summer, like
early
spring, or
it was when we were filming.
Spring?
I forget.
Yeah, we filmed so many different occasions too.
I know. Yeah. So you've been in Los Angeles for about a year now, right?
I'd say it's actually closer to 9 months.
9 months? Yeah.
Yeah.
How's things going being in the southern portion of this beautiful state?
Well, like life in general, it's a game of pros and cons.
Right.
To be honest with you, it was a hard transition because I had lived right next to Golden Gate Park for about almost 2 years. And it was really nice. The building was shit. The landlord was shady. I had crazy neighbors.
Yeah.
Whatever. But I had that park right there. And, I loved it.
And you know what? I remember, like, your transition from coming back to Amsterdam. Like, I could see how much you really did love that city. Like, when you came back, you had a different little... Yeah. It seemed like you had a different... appreciation for it, maybe a little bit when you came back for that second time, and I think we talked about it on some level.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to think. Before I lived in Golden Gate Park, though, I lived in the Tenderloin, right in the dense, urban, high crime part of San Francisco. It's one of the last bastions in America, frankly. I mean, I can't even think of a place in New York City anymore that's like the Tenderloin.
Yeah.
Skid Row here in Los Angeles is pretty close, but it's a different ball game. You know what I mean? Just in sheer numbers. But like, I don't know. So there's been this. I feel like I went from hyper urbanism, and then I was out near the park, and then my next move would have been to the woods, to be honest. And I ended up throwing myself into downtown LA. So that was hard. I had to really kind of reorient, how I thought about everything for a while.
Yeah.
It's really tough.
Does that come into the actual like geographics of the location? Like being, right next to one of the nicest parks, maybe in the country, to being in all gray concrete.
I live in downtown LA, so it's a concrete jungle. It's straight up blacktop and concrete from door to door across the streets. There's trees here and there. There's a random little park here and there, a rooftop garden, but there's not much. And I understand that like it's not really set up for residential living. It's getting that way, but I just like I won't buy a car. I don't like even riding around in a car. And Los Angeles is very much a car city, so for me to be able to live the lifestyle that I want to, I need to live within walking distance or bicycling distance of where I work. And that puts me in downtown LA.
Right.
And that's fine. And it's been good as far as like, I don't know. There are some really good parts about it. I mean, you can't really deny that winter in LA is the shit. It's so sunny and nice. I mean, even just now I was out in a t-shirt enjoying the sun. You can't beat that.
And really, that's what a lot of us are paying for.
Yeah.
That's what the rest of the country jokes about, that, you get all the nice weather in California, but you pay extra for it.
Yeah. It's kind of weird being a person who was born and raised in it without the context of any other thing, even though I've experienced winter in other places. But without really living in it, you can't fully understand.
Yeah.
No, you don't know what it is to be an American until you get outside of America. And same thing for California.
Yeah.
Same thing for anybody, anywhere. If you want to understand your conditioning and your culture, you need to get out of it until you're in a place where you can forget about it.
Right. So what are you doing do you feel like you're coming more to grips with Los Angeles? Do you feel more at odds with it?
No, I mean, I've just settled into a good routine.
Yeah.
It's actually, because of the difficulties, it's kind of pumped up my meditation practice and my yoga and my basic health kind of things. So I've gotten it pretty simple, and I've been rolling solo for a long time now. So I just have kind of a day-to-day groove. You know what I mean?
Right.
I cook almost every meal for myself now. I go for long walks after dinner every day. I'm healing a bunch of digestive issues that were the result of just eating processed food and sugar and alcohol and coffee and stuff my whole life, just with abandon,
Yeah.
And so I've just had to really reorient things. So this time here has been good for that too, because I don't really have a lot of distractions. I don't have very many friends that live within walking distance at all. And traveling across Los Angeles by bicycle is dangerous, and it gives me a headache, and I get a sore throat from the carbon monoxide. So it can be kind of like I got to really want to go somewhere.
Right.
To even deal with it, know? And and I already got a ticket for running a red light here, man. So it's
on a bicycle.
Yeah. I even stopped. I took my feet off. I took my hands off the handlebars, and there was no, what do you call it? A sensor in the road or on the sidewalk or anything to let the street know that there was a bicycle there to change the light.
Yeah.
So I just went. It just happened to be there was a cop right behind me on a motorcycle, so I basically did it right in front of him. And, you know, it basically it was, you know, it was some stupid shit. But ever since then, I have felt the oppression of the system. You know, like it ended up costing me almost $500 just to take care of it, and I had to go down to the courthouse 3 times.
Some bullshit.
Yeah. It really was some bullshit. And if I would have fought it, I would have fucking lost, and I would have paid twice as much.
Yeah.
You know, it's an incredible racket, and I've always known that. You know, and it's also I don't know. It was a good lesson too, in like I don't know, the intimidation of the 5-0s, man.
And you could see how that could affect people in very poor neighborhoods who definitely don't have $400 to buy food, let alone to just give to the city.
Hell no. And and so often they're the ones that get caught up in that bullshit. Every time I was at the courthouse, you know, yeah, it was obvious who was getting caught up in that shit, dude.
Yeah.
It's fucked up, man. Don't get me started. I think that the whole judicial system needs a fucking enema. Seriously.
Yeah, it does.
Big time, you know, and we can do it. This is America. It's for the people. We can vote that shit. We can do it, you know? We got more guns than anybody. That's why our government's so scared of us.
Right.
And that's the way it's been since day one, man.
No doubt.
That's checks and balances. That's all that is.
That's true.
Checks and balances. No doubt.
Yeah.
More people being lazy about things, though, for it not to change, you know?
Yeah, because if people are being supported in some way. Yeah.
Well, sure.
Or the people who are actually...
The causes for the apathy are pretty obvious to me. But again, it's one of those things where you need to remove yourself from those things, and then you can see it more clearly.
Yeah.
But, you know,
it's those people benefiting.
Turn off their TV for fucking a month, and you'd be hard-pressed to get somebody to do it, I think, or they would cheat. You know what I mean? Yeah, and that's like the biggest controlling mechanism I think there is out there today. Like when I drop in on it every once in a while, you know, it's incredible to me, and how obvious it is of what the biggest problems and what the biggest stresses and concerns and paranoias are. All you have to do is look at the advertising.
Right.
You know, it's an insurance company or it's a pharmaceutical company, right?
Yeah.
It's like one after the other. Or fucking cars, you know? And it would be full of fucking cigarettes and alcohol, too, if they would still let them.
Right.
Goddamn right.
And that just changed into junk food.
Yeah.
Sure. Goddamn right. High fructose corn syrup's the worst. That was the first thing I had to get rid of. I OD'd on that shit, and it almost killed me.
Yeah.
Straight up. I mean, where does diabetes come from, man? Do they ever just straight up say it? Well, I'm going to say it. It's fucking high fructose corn syrup.
You know, I was looking at some photos of people from the 70s. Actually, like a whole series of just like young people in their 20s in, you know, the late 70s. Everyone has abs.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Well, remember, too, those were the days before weapons. I knew that when I moved to New Mexico in the late 70s, it was still the gangsters fought with their hands, and they were huge.
Right?
They were monsters. Yeah. They were monsters because there weren't weapons around. There weren't weapons allowed. As soon as it went to gangbanging, you know, with the fucking guns, it changed the whole game. I've read many histories of, like, the Crips and the Bloods and the Latino gangs, the Mexican gangs, even white gangs, and it was totally that way up until around the 90s. It was all about brute force, and that was the whole thing back in the day. Fitness. You know, even my dad, to this day, I think he still lifts weights. He always has.
Whoa.
You know what I'm saying? And he's not a huge dude at all. That's just part of his, like, cardiovascular program.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not sure if he still does it. He's in his 60s. I'll have to ask him. I see him this weekend.
Oh, nice.
But it was always there that, you know, being physical and being strong was important, you know, for sure. And it is very different.
And there was manufacturing. People were working with their hands more.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, I just was watching some movie where they were bringing robots into a factory in the 70s, and the foreman of the factory was like, you know, I used to have to load these 400-pound pallets with my buddy 400 of them every single day, and it broke our backs, and I'm glad we don't have to put anybody else through that.
Right.
You know, we just saved a few hundred jobs and people breaking their back. And I'm like, yeah, but the flip side is, dog, you just took away 400 jobs from like regular people that maybe could have done that back-breaking work happily.
Yeah.
That's the bitch. I mean, you know, and we're paying for that now. I mean, the whole Industrial Revolution from the get-go, it's just gotten out of fucking control and only worse.
Yeah, as now we see slave labor throughout all the third world countries. Like remember everything used to be made in Taiwan, then everything was made in China, now everything's made in Afghanistan and in the Middle East.
Sure, India has lots of the
Indonesia
lost wage, absolutely, you know, and yeah, that's the world we live in. It's all getting connected one way or the other, you know, for better or worse.
Right.
You know, but I still think there's vast possibilities for us. You know,
endless.
Yeah. No.
I mean, everything could change tomorrow.
Well, sure.
Or not.
You know, I mean,
well, I guess it does anyway. No matter what, it's going to change tomorrow. It's not going to be the same as today.
I love to fantasize about electric power just being gone. And what would you be left with? You know, like when I've been in blackouts, like in San Diego.
That was ridiculous.
I love blackouts. It really shows what people are made of. How friendly were people? You know, It was like every intersection, the red lights were out. So every intersection, people were being super cautious. You know, nobody was getting crazy. You know, people were, you know, coming out of their houses with candles and checking on the neighbors and making sure they had some, and were talking in their yards. For the first time in some places, you know?
Yeah.
It was just such a different world, and I thought it was so much more peaceful and together, and I think those are powerful lessons, because those are lessons that I've learned on meditation retreats in the mountains with the monks. You know, as soon as you get rid of all this shit, the keys, the phone, the wallet, all that shit. There's an incredible weight lifted, just straight up, symbolic or not. I mean, it's powerful. It's really, really powerful.
Yeah,
you know?
I agree. That moment in San Diego was very interesting, and I don't know. Maybe it may not work the same way in some other cities, like we see in like New York, where things could go bad. There's always that option of things going bad. But there's something about when everybody's having the same thought. When everyone has about the same sort of ideas on their mind, or some of the same actions or ideas, like knowing that all of us are out of electricity right now. This is a commonality amongst a bunch of thinking people.
Yeah.
Everybody was connected somehow.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
I think that can be a manipulative force as well.
Yeah.
Because we do all get drawn together for a common cause. You know, and if you're like me and believe that 9/11 was an inside job and all those people died unnecessarily, you know, and it was meant to bring the country together for a common cause, and sure as shit it did. And a lot of people in foreign lands died for it, and more so regular American soldiers. More so.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Way more. And that, to me, that's disgusting. And I can't even... It blows my mind. You know, I had a friend that died there. Like, it's personal.
Yeah.
I don't know why the fuck people aren't waking up to the fact that kind of shit is happening. That level of manipulative force.
I always saw 9/11 as being, even though in that first week there seemed to be a cohesiveness, I've seen it since then as being more divisive than bringing like a group of people together. But I see the propaganda mind state of like Team America.
Well, sure, you know, you had to have an enemy.
Yeah.
You had to have a reason.
And we had Tim on yesterday, and he said groups get weird.
Yeah.
You know, once people start to group together, things can get...
Well, sure, mob mentality.
Yeah, things
of course. You know, you get a charismatic leader, and I mean, it can go really wrong. Although you can get a charismatic leader like Siddhartha Gautama, the historical Buddha, and things are all of a sudden real nice all over. He brought peace to the fucking land, you know, and there was disputes between kings. They called on this wandering homeless guy.
Do you think there's still is there still room for, you know, I'll use the term spiritual in quotations, I guess, just to be descriptive, like spiritual leaders in some new way in our modern age? Is there still room for these things?
Of course. It's still within us.
Yeah.
We're still connected to the all.
Right.
I know this. I mean, by blood we are.
Yeah.
You know? We came into existence through other human beings, period. That's the way it's always been. You know? That's some heavy shit. That's the spirit. That's the all that's within us, as well as that individual ego that's kind of the little running monkey in our heads.
Yeah. Mine fights inside. He has a little hammer and runs around and smashes.
Monkey mind. Oh yeah, that's what they call it.
I have two conflicting ones.
Monkey mind. Yeah, for sure.
Couple bonobos in there, fucking and shit.
But I do think that could happen. You know, this is maybe something we've talked about. It's like, why are we continually having to elect politicians to the highest offices in the federal government? Usually business people, 99% of the time. And they're the most ruthless, greediest of them. Why are we not able to elect someone like Oprah for president? Harrison Ford for vice president. Why the fuck not? Seriously, why the hell not? If we can vote for the best goddamn singer on a fucking TV show, why can we not vote for the president the same fucking way?
Yes,
if you
look at the amount of people that vote on those shows, and it correlates to almost the same amount of, let's say, of votes in any election.
Dude,
like,
it's really close. Staggeringly more.
Exactly my point. The people want to participate. They really want to, but the political system is a fucking dead end.
Yeah, it shows that it's not because of, you know, Oprah is like a perfect example, or somebody who's like a really famous movie star. There's no
America choose.
There's no reason that they wouldn't be able to garnish as many votes as some asshole business guy just out of popularity.
That's true, yeah. That's exactly my point. That's way more democratic and way more American. We forget that George Washington himself did not want the job of president. To begin with.
That shit was bestowed.
He did not want the job. He was told, we need you to lead the country. You're the fucking saving grace general, man. You're the guy. We need you out front. You're the front man, and that's all you need to do. Be the president, you know? And you have your duties. And we have our ways of checking and balancing shit. This is a good gig for you, man. Just do it for us. And he did it. A lot of the founding fathers were not all that keen on getting involved. Because, again, they were business people, and they knew that business was the thing that was going to corrupt what they just made.
Yeah.
You know?
And what
was the Civil War? Straight up.
Yeah, that's
business.
True. Mm-hmm.
Total business. And a lot of people don't know that. Like, I was ranting about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, the American holiday, the federal holiday, didn't start until 1863. Which the reality is that Lincoln wanted to kind of distract everybody from the atrocities of war, present this idea of universal brotherhood, in reality trying to unify the Union so that the tax dollars from the South continued to flow into the North. So you create this holiday, base it around these ideas of natives and English folk, the Pilgrims, having fucking dinner together like they're everybody's fucking great friends. Meanwhile, they're killing each other on a regular basis, both killing each other on a regular basis. And you see the same thing in the South and the North, this supposed brotherhood of the Union being propagandized through a yearly holiday. And now we look at it as something totally different, even though there is some historical context to like the 1600s and the 1700s.
Sure.
But that shit was utilized just like Labor Day is utilized to implant
the Pullman strike, right?
Right, and used to implant a certain type of mindset about something that's totally opposite of the realities of the atrocity of murdering one another.
That's the definition of propaganda. You know, it's a powerful force. Yeah. And if all the mainstream media is owned by 6 corporations, like, that's a powerful propagandist tool. the most powerful one that the planet has ever seen. So powerful that our American cultural outreach has gone planetary. You know what I mean? Like, when I go to other places in the world, they're watching Chuck Norris movies. You know what I mean? Yeah. Straight up. Like, the shit gets around.
Like, why shouldn't
and we're really at the forefront of it. And it's so sad to me that we're not taking more responsibility for that, too, and understanding. I mean, and I guess it's like the movie ratings board. I wonder if those people have ever gone to a foreign country and been sitting there having a falafel in Amsterdam and having to watch, like, Lethal Weapon or some shit, or, you know, just brutality and murder and mayhem. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because, like, that shit isn't cool. And I don't understand why sex is wrong in that way, too, as far as motion pictures are concerned, but violence is somehow A-okay and awesome.
Yeah. Well, it's that marketing to children. So forever we've been okay with marketing violence and weaponry to children. We see it. Kids get guns all the time as toys. There's plenty of toy weaponry.
It's going away, though. Yeah. I certainly see that as a trend among my friends. They absolutely would not give their children a weapon toy, or if they saw their child using a toy as a weapon, they would immediately stop them and have a little chat. You know?
Yeah.
I mean, but I will say I hang out with some pretty mindful folks. Some good parents, I'd say, you know.
For sure. I would say it's likely that there's probably, like, gun-toting nuts that are like, here, Johnny. I don't know why I automatically wanted to go Southern accent like a racist.
Well, I mean,
but they could be anywhere. It could be the northern part of the country.
Well, the observation, it's all true in that whole stereotype. That's true. What you just depict.
Yeah, so, it's still stereotypical though. Like, I could be talking about somebody from Oregon or Wyoming or Colorado.
They still have that accent. I mean, it's only an observation. They still have a Southern
accent, no matter where they're.
Well, that's just a redneck accent.
Yeah,
There's
sure.
a comedian that spoke about that. You can go anywhere in the world and that accent's the same. You can be in Juneau, Alaska, or down in Tallahassee, or up in Boston. That redneck it's a universal. I mean, even That's an American universal. God bless that. But I understand the trip about guns too. I mean, even myself, like, I feel LA has made that really apparent to me. I feel oppressed here, and I feel like I need to protect myself here, you know. And as a meditator, I check myself because I'm like, whoa, I just need to get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
If I'm back in the woods, I ain't tripping on this shit.
Yeah.
You know? I'm not, it's not real to me. Every red light I have to stop at in the middle of nowhere in LA because I'm scared there's going to be some cop right behind me that's going to see me run a red light again.
Yeah.
You know? That's oppression. And I'm very, very aware of that moment to moment as I'm out interacting in the world. And it's terrible, you know? Because I know that there's a different way.
Right.
You know, I've seen the other side, and that's the Pandora's box too, because then you see that the people around you are living within it, not realizing how much they're suffering and stressing and being oppressed simply because they don't have the means to get out of it for a few moments to see.
Yeah.
You know? It's it's gnarly.
So you brought up, like when we were talking about the blackout, like the availability of retreats. You've been a Buddhist for a long time, and have you done long retreats?
I'm a Buddhist, but I do practice Buddhist.
It's hard when you label yourself.
The Buddhist practices have been the most helpful to me and the most. I get them, and that they resound with my own experience, so I continue to roll with that. But I certainly have my problems with Buddhism too.
Sure.
At the same time, I find personally a lot of connections with Hindu philosophy as well, and even Egyptian. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. If you start studying something, all of a sudden you're supposed to be labeled as the thing that you're studying. If I,
Well, sure, because, in that way, too, you do need to choose a way with a capital W. I do understand that in particular, because, like, even the Freemasons kind of talk about this. You have to at some point dedicate yourself to one thing and follow it through to the end, so that, how do I explain this? You've got to do it yourself, and it's all I don't know.
Do you think like the idea that you have to like follow through with something, in that, you know, is that like the idea of becoming a master of one thing and like not like a jack of all trades? This is something that's been a common topic.
Yeah, I mean,
like
that's really the crux of it. You know, it's like if you just keep dabbling, you're not really going to get to the core issue. But if you do choose one and follow it through, you'll see that what you've actually learned is all of the different ways is one way. They all lead to the same truth. That was the Freemason connection that I was trying to point out.
Right.
They know that it all comes back to the same, you know, the same thing, the same idea, the same experience. God, it gets so abstract.
But yeah, I know.
But it has history. It has culture. So the Freemasons will collect all of the different stories and information and theology from all the different cultures, put them all together, and find the common thread.
Which is very similar.
The common thread is the one way. And I found it through Buddhism. The Freemasons, like the old Freemason books that I used to read, and they would allude to things in metaphor that now I understand because I've broken through my ego as a Buddhist practitioner. But I could have broken through my ego using vastly different techniques from all the different cultures of humanity and history. I chose the Buddhist path, and his did, in fact, and continues to bring light, you know?
So those ideas are very similar to the logo drawing stuff that you were just doing.
Well, sure, and a lot of the logos are coming from those ancient Freemason ideas too, and the symbols inherent in them. You know what I mean? Right. A cross has a certain power and a certain meaning, you know, because it's a cross. It's a certain symbol. It's ingrained in our psyches. You can close your eyes and you can see that cross. And on some level, perhaps we're even born knowing what that symbol, that it has some sort of power and meaning. Yeah. I just noticed that when I was, before we started talking, I was doing a meditation practice, and I made this sign of the praying hands, you know, but I do it like the Buddhist style as a lotus. And what I was tripping out on was that position as a human being has powerful meaning, because thousands and thousands of generations of people in my personal bloodline, also, when they make that sign, it's for a particular moment. It's for a particular experience, you know, for a focusing of intentional energy, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm really connecting with something that my body has known for thousands of years. And there's power in that. There's incredible power in that, simply in acknowledging that fact, you know, that there's certain physical things that have meaning, and symbols have meaning just as much as that physical symbol of praying hands has meaning to us in all those vastly different ways, right?
And even just to take the moment to think about a genealogy in that way, not only did a whole lineage of people who were like you doing these same things, it took that whole lineage of people doing those same things for you to even be in existence now. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And that sort of is a mind fuck in and of itself. Like, that kind of checks your ego a little bit just in thinking that shit. Like, when you think you're special.
There's no way.
Well, you're special because of, you know...
Or maybe you're special because of that. I
think we're all, you know, I think in my experience, when I've done long meditations over the course of many days, I go through kind of a regression. And, you know, it'll kind of go to where I start to remember things that happened when I was a teenager, things that happened when I was 10 years old, when I was 5 years old. And then things would come up that were pre-thinking and speaking experiences that come up, right? And then it goes back further and further and further and further and further and further. And I think I don't know if I've sat long enough, but I've had glimpses of it, that there is this kind of, it's almost like it's the connection to the all. You go all the way back, all the way through your ancestors, back into your how we evolved maybe from other life forms like apes, right? Back into the ocean, right? Back into single-cell organism, all the way back. We all have the capacity to go back and to reconnect with all of that. That is within us, at every cell of our bodies, and even in our minds, we can experience that. I know I have, and I know that everyone has that capacity, you know? And it's incredible power.
Do you feel like that?
And I think that that's one of the things that's why we're so distracted from going there. You know, when you make that connection, it has a powerful changing force in your life.
What do you think it is about meditation that brings us into those sorts of phases?
Well, it gets us away from the ego. And it allows the stuff that's been wanting to come up to show itself, you know, to come up. Yeah. But it also brings up all your shit with it. Because it's like, if we're going to be here, let's deal with this. Let's get past this, you know? So, and that's why, like, in Tibetan drawings, you know, you'll see their deities, like, riding through lakes of blood with fire around them, and they've got like necklaces of skulls and spears, and they're riding these flaming horses and shit, and they're wrathful as all hell. It's because to sit quietly in meditation and to go into yourself, you're going to need that kind of attitude to face your own demons, because the scariest shit is your own demons. Not some shit that's outside in the world. It's your own shit. Why do we watch so much TV and movies? We're trying to avoid the demons in our own minds.
Yeah.
Right? It's much more fun to take on the demons of, let's say, the Breaking Bad characters. Let's let that become our drama. Because my personal drama is fucking shit and terrible, and I don't even want to think about it. That's the trap.
We see those same metaphors in Christianity too, like Jesus up on the hill with his own demons and the burning bush and all that shit, right?
For sure.
Or the burning bush was Moses, huh?
Jesus was simply part of that Christ tradition. He wasn't the only Christ of his time. He was one of them. Yeah. And don't forget that he was even baptized by John the Baptist. What does that say? He revered John above himself, right?
Yeah. You know what?
On some level.
I was wondering if that was
like, you know, but even his tradition was very much in line with the Buddhist tradition of asceticism, like the sadhus. You know, when Jesus came back from the dead, he didn't really come back from the dead. He came back from a retreat, and he was reborn because he had annihilated his ego and understood his connection to the all and became a son of God. You know?
Right.
But sure as shit, I am too. And you too.
Right, and that's what I mean.
Know?
So, like,
you just gotta wake up to it.
Is that what it takes? Like a modern day, all of us become gods on some level, or sons of gods, daughters of God.
You have to do that work yourself.
Right.
Nobody can do it for you. Nobody can just go up in the woods and sit for you.
And that seems to be the difference now that we see in like modern day religion, where it's people are being told that God is going to do something for you. Like,
sure, and they just pay for it. Yeah, it's easy. It's convenient, and that's fine.
Right,
that's fine.
Right.
You know, because that comes with the creature comforts. And at base, you know, there's the spiritual side of us too that knows all these big crazy things, but there's this biological side too that just wants to be warm, that wants to have plenty of food, that wants to fuck.
Right.
You know. That doesn't want to worry about anything like predators or, you know, whatever. You know, you just want to chill, right? You just want to have your comfy little apartment. I mean, I'm fucking guilty as all hell of that.
Yeah,
I know that.
Yep,
you know, I'm working towards getting rid of that too. You know, for sure.
So, what do you see in the future? Let's. I know we talked a little bit. You want to start doing some recording, like a podcast or some type of spoken word thing.
Yeah, I've got a bunch of ideas for individual podcasts that I just simply need to get produced. I've got a bunch of like mixtape kind of ideas where I would just tell stories over some music, particular music. You know, it's like I would tell the story of losing my virginity over the song that I heard when it was going down.
Yeah, nice.
You know what I mean?
Nice,
Make that connection, that kind of shit. Yeah. Like the song that was playing in the back of the goddamn cop car when I got arrested. You know, those story connections. And then I do have some ideas for full-length albums too.
Nice.
That have a lot of like, I don't know, variation in range.
Yeah.
I'm just curious to see what I can do. I've always used my hands as my tool. Now I'm going to try to use my voice. And I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
That sounds awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I want to thank you again for taking the time to shoot the shit with us. It's much appreciated and always a pleasure. Can we send people over to your website?
Yeah, I mean, the best place to go is rebel8.com. I'm trying to think. I do, I honestly put a lot of effort into my Tumblr too.
Nice.
originalgiantcontent.tumblr.com.
All right, cool.
Yeah. Because, like, MikeGiant.com is a good source, too, but I don't really put a lot on there these days, and it doesn't have a store or anything.
Yeah.
And
you do a blog?
Once in a while. I do
on
a
Rebel
blog
8
on the Rebel 8 site, but I don't really post that much to it. It's like a lot of the day-to-day stuff that I do at Rebel 8 that I would post, I just can't. Because I can't leak out what I'm doing.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. That's why the Tumblr's cool, because I can just post whatever the fuck I want, even if it's stuff from other companies or just inspirational stuff or pornographic or whatever the fuck. I can just throw it on there.
Nice. So, all right, we'll send everybody over there.
All right, man. Thanks.
All right, Mike, let's do Internet Dap. Call it a day.
All right. Oh, yeah, word.
Bam. All right. Thank you, brother.